big hello and a very warm welcome to part 2 of the Brand Equity Ad Asia special with me, Sonali Krishna. For all those of you who missed out on the 3-day gala in the capital, here's a quick look at the sights, sounds and flavors of Ad Asia 2011.
Go with the flow.
We'll make sure that you have a smile when you eat and drink our products. That's our assurance to you.
Why do brands exist?
I think we are still better than anything else that has happened around the world, but not better than Jaipur.
Well, you know, if you rate from a scale of 1 to 10, I would put this as a very high 9.
I think I'm going to see this Ad Asia as a segue between the old media and the new media, and probably it's going to be seminal in that way.
So I think it's a good combination of work and play.
Parties was fabulous, you know, the one that hosted by Densu, Maharaja theme was something that, it is one of the biggest, such gala event that I've ever attended.
Good that lots of senior people turned out, and it's also sad that I'm missing all the youngsters.
Absolutely phenomenal in terms of content. The food has been great. Everything has been absolutely superlative.
The 3-day conference had everyone immersed in thought and discussion, but the highlight was clearly Indira Nooyi's session, which culminated with the Omnicom chairman John Wren quizzing the PepsiCo chief executive. This conversation has some serious food for thought. Listen in.
I get the easy task of asking Indira some questions. I learned something interesting this morning, that in India alone, you touch 2 million retailers, which, coming from the West, is fairly extraordinary. We, in the advertising business, are, to a great extent, used to sending out messages. We're learning how to enter into dialogue with people. You are dialoguing differently with all those people every day. It seems extraordinary.
Well, it's only 2 million. I think it's going to be 5. But I think, just think what we can learn from a country like India, okay? Just to give you an idea, the drop size for our products here, maybe 2 or 3 bags, okay? Because big trucks don't go into these little streets and drop off product. In summer, we may have to service an account 6 or 8 times a day because the thing has to get replenished all the time. But just imagine if we could take this model and now tailor it and go to the United States and say, as our business grows, as our SKU complexity grows, there's not infinite space in the store. How can you now reset a store so that it can handle much higher velocity? And how can you create a delivery infrastructure, much like what they do in India, to service the accounts differently? So I look at the India experiment and say, or the India business, and say, what a great learning lab for us to lift and shift this model to markets that never thought they could learn from the East. So I'm actually full of hope, optimism, and excitement.
As the leader of a company that was founded in the West, and a lot of its revenues come from the West, and a lot of its managers come from the West, how do you drive innovation in the world that's shifted to this part of the world and all of its implications?
Companies like ours, which were born in the West, cannot export a Western model all the time because the old Western models were made for big markets, a lot of standardization, and high prices. Now our expansion is coming in markets where the volumes are small, the value equation is completely different, and the infrastructure is not what exists in the West. So the challenge is to hire the best people in each of these countries and let them loose. Give them general parameters on what they cannot violate and let them go off and create a business model that's relevant to that country, that meets the value equation in that country. And the best way to think about it is, in the past we used to price to cost, now we have to cost to price. So when you think that way, in emerging markets, they do a brilliant job of costing to a price. Then imagine the power if we take that model back to the Western world, because we can disrupt ourselves in the West using a tried and tested model in the East. So this is the skill we're trying to develop in our own company by creating a borderless enterprise within our own enterprise.
That's fabulous, and it's quite a learning experience.
Can I ask you a question,
Yeah,
John?
please.
Do you believe Omnicom as an advertising agency is changing rapidly for the new world?
It's changing very rapidly.
How do you train your people? How do you develop them?
That is terribly interesting. I probably have 1,800 offices around the world, organized a little bit differently. I, too, have a pretty good understanding of succession and who's important and who isn't. We then have training programs which go beyond simply the craft. What, for our top-tier leaders, and the ones who we believe will become top-tier leaders, we want to teach them not only advertising skills or marketing skills, we want to teach them business skills, because to be incredibly successful in the business, you truly have to understand strategically what the client's doing.
But you know, John, you're bringing up something, because everything, I mean, in a rapidly changing world, no company can develop everything they need on their own.
Oh.
So more so than ever, I think there needs to be partnerships. Unlikely bedfellows, you know, partnerships with companies to say, okay, John, you develop this module, I'll develop this.
Right.
And let's figure out a way to work together, because in the past we may not have exchanged training programs, but in the future, I mean, before the ink is dry on a training program, you've got to develop the next one.
Right.
So let's figure out a way to pool all our talents.
Over the next couple of years, investments outside of the United States, what do you envision for PepsiCo in order to accomplish many of the things that you discussed today?
Yeah. Look, the growth in the global economy is happening in the Middle East and the East, Latin America. That's where the explosive GDP growth is happening. And the Western world will always be a big source of business, but the explosive growth is happening in those markets. Unfortunately, in today's world, every company in the West is looking for companies to partner with or buy in these markets, so valuations are crazy. So we constantly look for little tuck-in acquisitions that you can buy and build from, or we look to make organic investments. So I wish PepsiCo today had 60% of its business from developing in emerging markets. Unfortunately, I can't put the clock back. We have some ways to go to get to that point. But I think, ideally, if I could put a dream out for myself in the next 5 years, if we could get to 50-50 emerging markets, emerging and developing markets and developed markets, I'd say we've done a yeoman's job. But it's through buy and build and through augmented with big organic investments.
Thank you for this.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.